Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Mio on MMA podcast, talking about the PFL, talking about one very, very briefly, and talking about UFC Vegas. So, back at the Apex once again. We'll get to that card in more detail, but it's a mixed bag. So let's quickly talk about, everything else going on. It is hilarious that news is broken that Manel Kape is pulled out of his fight against Matthias Nicolau. Given how angry, and I mean biblically angry, he got with Alex Perez for pulling out of their fight. So he's not fighting Matthias Nicolau anymore, who is now fighting Alex Perez. That will, ironically, probably also fall apart because I don't trust Alex Perez to make it fight day. So that's fun and not awesome, not ideal. And then aside from that, we have Ronda Rousey just being a nutbag. There are people defending her and talking about how delusion is part of being a fighter. And it absolutely is. 100%. I have yet to meet a successful MMA fighter who is like properly in tune with the universe as it is. And that's not an insult because without these people, I mean, the sport doesn't exist. These are the risks. These are the risk takers. These are the, I think the line is trendsetters, but like, I wouldn't say that. But like, these are the people who dare to do things that you and I would not do. So, like, ultimate respect for that. But the problem is that, like, Ronda Rousey is divorced from that and still very, like, it's getting in the way of her life how little she can deal with reality not being what she wants it to be, you know? And there's the other defense is like, well, people are like, just, like, trying to dismiss her legacy. I don't know about that. I have met very few MMA fans who do not have I have met a number that don't, but like they're just anti-women's MMA, like, you know, kind of right-wing reactionaries who don't believe that women should be in the UFC. Therefore, they don't like Ronda Rousey. But if we exclude them for a moment, most people admit that like she is the single most important pioneer of women's MMA. She is the reason women are in the UFC. She is the spark. And at one point in time, she was the greatest fighter in women's MMA on the planet. It's just time passed her by, and she can't really deal with it. So that's been fun. That's been a fun discussion to have after her interview, where she claimed to have concussion before fighting Holly Holm. There was an accusation of like a mouth guard issue. Like it is a bit ridiculous. And then also, it's kind of funny watching Sean Strickland demand a title rematch for a belt that before he got it, and even after he got it, he claimed was not important to him, or he's going to go box for more money, which he's also claimed was not important to him. Like, it's the weird thing is that like anyone else doing this would not like even, it wouldn't even be a news story. It's just that Sean Strickland brought, and again, I never bought into this. I always said that watch how he fights. He's not this crazy person. But the idea was he's this crazy person who just loves violence so much that he would do it for free. He doesn't need money. He doesn't need a belt. He'll fight at the Apex all the time, whatever. And then it's ironic is like, now that he's realizing that like his platform, well, not even that. He's realizing that there might be a chance for him to get a title rematch. And he is playing every card he can to try and make that happen. And I don't even mind him getting a title rematch. It's just funny to watch somebody's character break down so much to reveal that like he's just a normal fighter, realistically. Like he is a little crazy, don't get me wrong. He is a little detached from reality, don't get me wrong. But the whole idea of him being something like unique and uniquely crazy, not really actually the case. So that's been fun. And let's get into the fights. So quickly, I'm going to go over the one card because I literally have nothing to say about it because there's very little MMA on it of note. So if you look down the card here, you've got a one welterweight championship fight between Alexis Nicholas and Regan Ursay in kickboxing. You've got a grappling championship between Ty Rotolo and Isaac Mitchell. You've got a Muay Thai bout. You've got an MMA bout between Ben Tynan and Duke Didier. I am cheering for Ben Tynan. I like him. That being said, I don't think he's actually necessarily that good, but he is 5-0 and he brings a reasonable wrestling pedigree to the to the one heavyweight ranks, which, probably will get him a lot of wins. Then we got more Muay Thai. We got more grappling with Cade Rotolo. It was Ty Rotolo before. Cade Rotolo also on the card. Very normal. And then an MMA fight between two journeyman 185ers, Hiroki Tetsuya versus Vladimir Da Silva. Again, this is kind of weird thing where, like, it's going to be a fun card. Don't get me wrong. Like, I really enjoy these, but I just don't follow kickboxing, Muay Thai, grappling nearly with the same energy I follow MMA with. And as a result, I don't know. I know who the Rotolos are. They're really, really cool, but that's kind of it. So I just don't feel the ability to, like, comment on this, but, like, check it out on Amazon Prime. It's on Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Boom, there you go. There's the pimp out. I do want one to succeed because I want anything that shakes up the business model of MMA to succeed. I've always said this, like, how do you solve fighter pay? You develop competition. That's what does it in all other sports, basically, is that you have teams that want the best possible team and are willing to pay for it. And that's kind of what we need in MMA. We need other promoters. So, like, I am, as much as I dislike one in PFL for various reasons, I do encourage the consumption of their product. And we'll talk about PFL. And I'm a little bit more excited about PFL because this is the best season that they have ever had or at least you should, on paper. Because obviously you got Bellator content or Bellator fighters coming over. And as a result, you've got the old guard of PFL guys who were pretty good. And you've got the Bellator guys coming over. So the divisions they've got are listed here are featherweight, which of course has your stalwarts of Bubba Jenkins, Brendan Logain in there, as well as, I'm not sure if any of these others were really like stalwarts of PFL. A lot of Bellator content here with Adam Boric, Brett Johns, Enrique Barzola, Kai Kamaka, Justin Gonzalez, Pedro Carvalho, Otto Rodriguez, Timur Kizriev, Tyler Diamond. It's a pretty good field, and if I were to pick somebody to win the whole thing, this is a tough one. This one is a tough one. I looked through this before, and I didn't really have a full-on decision here. Also, Gabriel Braga is in there as well. I am going to go with Adam Boric. I think he is an exceedingly exciting fighter. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of flaws to his game. He's a lot of flash and not necessarily the substance you want. But I do think that he has the scary tools to possibly win something like this. Even if I think, given a full game plan oriented camp, you could probably beat him without too much issue. But like the PFL season tends to be more general game planning and training. And I think that'll allow Boric to do his thing. Heavyweight, you got Delia, Bruno Capolosa, Daniel James, Dennis Goldstaff, Jordan Heiderman. That's not great. Linton Vassell, Marcelo Gome, Oleg Popov, Valentin Moldavsky, Tyrell Fortune. I really think Tyrell Fortune's really good. And I really think Steve Murray is really good as well. And Sergey Bilusteny. You can tell I'm not terribly familiar with him with that pronunciation. I am going to go with Linton Vassell to win the tournament there. It's kind of weird. Linton Vassell was a 205er for a really, really long time, so it seems like he should be too small, whatever. But like, dude is I'm not gonna disparage anyone here, but like, dude is jacked, and if you give him dominant position on the ground, you're in for a world of hurt. So like, I am gonna say Linton Vassell, and then light heavyweight, you've got Alex Polize, Antonio Carlos Jr. I could never say his name, but I really like this fighter. Dov Letchan Yagshamiradov. I like him a lot, but he has a hard name for me to say. Ipika Sankanai, Jacob Nadeau, who I do not really know, Josh Silvari, Phil Davis, Robert Wilkinson, Sadabusi, Simon Biong, and Tom Breeze. I'm going to go with Phil Davis, the longtime UFC standout. And then at lightweight, kind of weird that there isn't like a really dominant one here, and there's a lot of filler. I'm looking at you like Solomon Renfro. I'm looking at Michael Dufort. You're Canadian, but no offense, you're here just to make up numbers. But we got Adam Piccolotti, we got Brent Primus, Bruno Miranda, we've got Clay Collard, Mads Burnell, JJ Wilson, Gadzi Radzabov. We've got Elvin Espinosa. I do not know you, but you are 9-0. Patricky Pitbull as well in there. I'm going to go with Mads Burnell. I think he's going to be the shocker. I know he's not really a lightweight, but I just have that kind of confidence. Welterweight, Andrei Koreshkov is my pick. I'm going to say that right now because he's the first one on the list here. Don Madge, Goto Yamamuchi, Kyle Crutchmer, Leandro Staropoli, Logan Storley, Luka Paklit, Magomed Umalatov. We've got Merab Ramazanov. I do not know you, but you are 11-0. Neiman Gracie, Shamil Musiev, and Zach Jasola, who I'm going to go with is the worst guy in this tournament because I don't know him, and he's 14-9. That's a little concerning. And then women's flyweight, where I have to go with Liz Carmouche, but it's a pretty good field of Chelsea Hackett. Dakota Ducheva is the one I think everyone's hoping will win. Denise Kyle Holtz, Jenna Bishop, Julian Velasquez, Kenna Watanabe, Caitlin Neal, Lisa Malden, Liz Carmouche, like I said, Shanna Young, Samiko Inabe, and Tyler Santos. Tyler Santos is definitely an option as well. UFC title challenger, really, really good fighter. Jenna Bishop is a really, really good grappler, but I don't think that's going to be enough. And like Denise Keelholtz is, of course, a very, very good kickboxer. That's not going to be enough. Juliana Velasquez is an option, but she's lost twice to Liz Carmouche, so that's a tough one. I've just never really have been on the Kenna Watanabe hype train. So yeah, I think if I were to say three people, it'd be Carmouche, Santos, and Ducheva. But I'm going to go with Carmouche. So let's talk about the PFL 1 card really quick, which has the heavyweights and the women's flyweights. And I think that's it. There's a couple of like highlight fights down at the bottom, but like I think that's it. Anti-Delia versus Valentin Moldavsky. I'm going to go with Valentin Moldavsky to be the better wrestler and to control the fight and get the job done. Dennis Goldstoff versus Linton Vassell. I'm picking Linton Vassell to win the whole thing. So there you go. I got him by TKO. Liz Carmouche versus Juliana Velasquez. Liz Carmouche has beaten her twice. She's getting older, don't get me wrong. How old is Carmouche at this point? She is 40, but like Velasquez is 37. So there you go. Liz Carmouche. Ducheva versus Malden is like the biggest like non-fight on the card, basically. Like it's a squash match. As a result, take Ducheva. Marcelo Gombe, Daniel James, a rematch with Gombe is actually still favored in. I get why. I do think he's a better structured fighter. James is very much the athletic cheatery type of guy who is often losing fights before winning. That is an interesting one. I'm going to go with Gombe, but we'll see. Blago Ivanov versus Sergey Bilosteny. Is Ivanov in the tournament? He's not listed, but he is fighting someone who is. This is weird. Anyways, Ivanov is the easy pick there. Tyler Santos versus Alara Joan, who is also not listed as in the tournament. Santos is my pick. Steve Mowry versus Oleg Popov. I'm going to go with Popov, but like I am going to be cheering for Mowry. I think he's an interesting fighter, and I'm really intrigued to see what a 6'8" dude who actually is pretty athletic can do. He's at a kill cliff, and he's been pretty good. His only losses to Valentin Moldavsky, who is by no means a bad fighter. He does lack like a signature win, but he does have a Kimura over Gokhan Sarakam, who is Oleg Popov's biggest win. So there you go. I'm going to go with Popov, but that's because if Mowry does win, I'm going to be super hyped. Anyways, Kenna Watanabe versus Shanna Young, going with Watanabe. I'm not a fan of hers, but I ain't that much not a fan of hers. Chelsea Hackett, Jenna Bishop, going with Jenna Bishop to win by sub. And then highlight real stuff with Lucas Brennan, probably going to destroy Dimitri Ivey, and Bryce Meredith, probably going to destroy Ty Johnson. They're like minus 2,000 favorites or something like that. Hang on, let's see here. What is the Tapology odds on this one? Minus 800 for Brennan, and no odds listed for Meredith. I saw his betting odds were in the 4 digits though, so that's the PFL card. It's pretty good top to bottom, to be honest. There's like obviously there's a couple of fights that are not very interesting, particularly at the very, very bottom. But even some of the tournament bouts are not that interesting. It's always the problem with the tournament. There's always people who are there to make the numbers work, as opposed to actually being like contenders. So, there is some of that, but at the same time, they're going to, I think do a pretty good job. And then that's tomorrow. And then we finally get into the UFC stuff, which you're all here for. Brendan Allen versus Chris Curtis, number 2, headlining the Apex. If you didn't see the first fight, it was frustrating because it was Brendan Allen having a lot of like the answers, specifically with kicks and knees and so on. And Curtis being aware that he wanted to force Allen into the back foot, but like having no actual way of doing it, which is frustrating. But Allen making a lot of bad mistakes, like jumping the back and jumping a guillotine, and also jumping for a leg lock. Well, not jumping, but dropping for a leg lock, I suppose would be the terminology there. And these were all bad moments that led to momentum for Chris Curtis. And hopefully he avoids that, because I think he has all the tools to do a Jack Hermanson or even Nasruddin Imavov style game plan of taking advantage of the fact that Chris Curtis, for a veteran of his age, is just not good at cage cutting. And if you can work kicks in and you can fight at a long range, as a 6'2", 75-inch reach fighter should be able to do, this should work. But he did get knocked out, and he was very, very, very vulnerable to body shots the last time they fought. And I mean, Chris Curtis is going to know that. So I'm going to go with Allen by decision. Chris Curtis does not get finished very often, and if it is, it's something weird that you wouldn't predict anyways. I do have to go with Brendan Allen to have proper coaching and just take the blueprint that people with similar athletic abilities and frames have taken to Brendan Allen or Chris Curtis and do it. But we'll see. Allen is the favorite at minus 205 to minus 230, and Curtis is plus 164 to plus 180. Co-main event, Alexander Hernandez, Damon Jackson. Not super interested in this fight. Hernandez is a much, add a couple of more munches there, more impressive physical fighter than Damon Jackson. Damon Jackson is just not very athletic, and he isn't very deep in technique. Like, the problem for Hernandez tends to be he's a very, very shallow technique pool. So he'll come in and like it'll work, the first time, the second time, the third time, but eventually it's going to stop working. And a guy like Billy Quarantillo, for example, is going to take him to pieces. Jackson's not that guy. He's kind of a front foot pressure fighter who likes to. He's scrappy, and he's got the scrappiness, and he's got the heart of a guy like a Billy Quarantillo, but he doesn't have the game of it. He doesn't weaponize his pace the same way. He doesn't have the same depth, and as a result, I have to pick Hernandez. Like, the question becomes, like, does Hernandez TKO him from top position with ground and pound? Does he catch him with a hot shot? Does he submit him? Or does he go to decision? I'll go with the decision. I'll give Jackson that courtesy. But there's just not really anything I think Jackson's going to do against Hernandez that's going to surprise him. And I'm actually surprised it's only a minus 198 to minus 210 favorite line for Hernandez. Jackson at plus 162 to plus 170. I thought that would be wider, and I'll probably take the advantage of like betting on that, which, by the way, now is as good a time as any to do the whole betting thing. If you're going to bet on these fights, be ready to lose the money because it's MMA, random stuff happens, and there is nothing sadder than watching like people freak out over losing like their car payment on MMA and stuff. Don't do that. Don't do that. If you're going to bet responsibly. There you go. Then we have Morgan Charrier versus Chepe Mariscal. Charrier is one of the most weird cases of fighter of thing. Like, because like every time I watch him, I see things I like. I see head movement that I like. I see physicality that I like. I see slickness as a striker I like. I see good decision making. I see solid fight IQ. And then he'll lose to fighters that I just think he has no business losing to. So that, fills me with all kinds of trepidation about taking him against Chepe Mariscal here, but like, he is a better athlete. He is a much better athlete. He is not like a Trevor Peek who has a very limited set of what he wants to do and very poor structure. Like, Charrier does everything in moments very, very well. He varies up his techniques, he varies up his entries, he varies up his body and head work. But Mariscal did beat Jack Jenkins. So I don't know. This could be fun. Like, Chepe Mariscal is a super, super game guy. I'm actually looking forward to this fight, but it's a kind of perverse looking forward to where it's kind of like, all right, how is Charrier going to kind of mess this up? And we'll find out. So Charrier by decision, he's a minus 115 to minus 130 favorite, minus 105 to plus 105 underdog for Mariscal. Ignacio Bahamondes versus Christos Giagos. This is not a very interesting fight for me. I was looking back through Giagos' record, and the only guy with a significant reach advantage over him that he has ever beaten is Carlton Minus, who just wasn't very good. So he's facing a 6'3", 75.5-inch reach guy. He's 5'10", 71.5-inch reach. He's going to lose. Bahamondes is not as defensively sound as I would like him to be. He's more hittable than is just healthy, but he is hard to out-grapple. He is hard to bully. He is a volume striker who will put out a lot of violence on you. Giagos is a glass cannon who is capable of really cool moments, I guess, and victories that are, never really count him out, but he usually needs somewhat of about the same height as him and the same reach as him to make it work, because he doesn't really have entries or cagecraft or cutting off the cage in any way. He doesn't have footwork. He's just kind of powerful. He's just kind of a powder keg that explodes and sometimes takes people with him. But I've got to go with Bahamondes by decision, just because Bahamondes is not really a finisher. At least not in a power sense. He will take front headlock stuff. So if Giagos gets careless, I can see him getting submitted, but I think this probably does go the distance. Bahamondes is a prohibitive favorite at minus 335 to minus 350. Giagos is plus 250 to plus 275. I'm just staying away from that one. I'm also staying away from this next fight, heavyweights, Lucas Brzeski versus Walter Walker. I have no idea what to think about Walter Walker. He's Johnny Walker's big brother. He is huge. He is athletic. He's 6'6" with an 81.1 inch reach. Weird that they went to 0.1 there. And he is the explosive, fast, powerful guy that you would expect when you see Johnny Walker's brother. He's also a mess. So I don't know. Lucas Brzeski is a much more reliable technical fighter, but a much worse athlete. And a guy who did just get kind of absolutely stomped on by Waldo Cortez Acosta and absolutely stomped on by Carl Williams, who is actually pretty good. I did think he beat Martin Budai. So the 0-3 mark in the UFC shouldn't be the case. I think it should be 1-2. But I fault no one for picking Brzeski, but I'm going to go with Walker by knockout, and we'll see what happens. But there is not really a rhyme or reason for the matter, because we have never seen Walker fight like anybody, is what it comes down to. The guy has not. Look at this record. It is an 11-0 record, which looks really, really good, but it's 1-0, 0-0, 0-0, 1-0, 7-3, 3-3, 7-2, 1-1, 6-3, 20-13, and then he beat Alex Nicholson to get to the UFC, who is a middleweight essentially, and is 15-10. So yeah, he hasn't lost. He hasn't shown to be chinny yet. I guess that's all I need to go with him. But yeah, he is the favorite. Minus 260 to minus 295. Brzeski is to plus 210 to plus 225. That's a live dog in my opinion. Trevor Peek versus Charlie Campbell. I don't have the same hype for Charlie Campbell that a lot of people do. There's a lot of it. He just seems to have a hype that I don't understand. I get it. He's got reach. He's a 6 foot tall, 72.5-inch reach guy at 155. He looks thick. He's powerful. He's explosive. He's strong. He has all the physical check boxes you could possibly want. But he also got knocked out by Chris Duncan. And the problem is that that is his game. His game is to wade into the pocket and power strike with you. And I don't think he has the chin really for that. And I don't think he has the depth of technique. Maybe he'll get there. He's 28. There's possible improvements still to become. But I don't know. I can't shake it that I think he's going to be a complete letdown. But he is going to beat Trevor Peek. Trevor Peek is a absolute, he's an athletic mess. He throws standing hammer fists. It's terrible. It is honest to God terrible. He'll beat people who just can't physically compete with him, like Mo Yaya and whoever it was that he beat in his first fight. Was it Eric Gonzalez? It was Ghost Chili or something who he beat. It shows you how much I think about this guy because I don't even remember. Yeah, it was Eric Gonzalez. Hey, I was right. The Ghost Pepper. There you go. So I was on the right track. But anyways, no, I'm not picking Trevor Peek. Trevor Peek is 5'9", 70 inches. So he's a little bit short for lightweight. He's a little bit lacking in reach. Not really. I mean, 70-inch reach is good, but like 5'9" is a little bit short. He's unsound as a technical striker. So yeah, this should be the type of guy that Charlie Campbell TKOs. He is the favorite at minus 175 to minus 215. Peak is plus 145 to plus 164. So I guess that's closer than I was expecting to be. I was kind of expecting like Campbell to be like a minus 400 or something insane, and he's not. So I guess that's good. Court McGee versus Alex Morono begins our old people like sad trio for the night because Court McGee is 39 years old, has not beaten someone with a functioning striking game since about 2018. I can't pick him. I love him. I'm going to be cheering for him, but I cannot pick him. Morono is a physically limited fighter, but it's not like McGee is a tremendous athlete. He's also, again, 39 years old. Should be a relatively fun fight because Morono's unlikely to just terminate the old man and unlikely to like run away with it either. So it's good matchmaking if you're going to matchmake Court McGee, but at the same time, it's just a little, it'll be a little bit sad. Anyways, Morono by decision, he is a minus 290 to minus 335 favorite. McGee is plus 230 to plus 250. Norma Dumont versus Jermaine Durandamy continues this with another 39-year-old fighter coming back after 3+ years away. I am going to be the positive guy here and just assume that JDR, even at 39 years old, has still got it. She's the taller, longer fighter. She is a far more technical striker. She is a more powerful striker. Dumont doesn't really put much of a pace on people. And JDR, actually fairly difficult to take down, has a little bit of a ground game, and only loses to like Amanda Nunes, who, she also turns into a, panic wrestler for, credit to her. So yeah, I'm going to go with her, but like there is a chance where like JDR just comes out, looks like terrible at the weigh-ins and like looks terrible in the fight. I don't know. Dumont is a live pick here, but she's also a favorite. So like, I don't know. She's minus 150 to minus 170. JDR plus 120 to plus 135. I might bet on the underdog here if I have a little bit left over. It's just, I'm never comfortable betting on somebody who's been away for 3 years. And then we complete the trio with Cynthia Calvillo, 0-5 in her last 5, hasn't won a fight since 2020 against Jessica Ai, which is a really weird fighter. It's a decent run, don't get me wrong. Losing to Lupi Godinez is not a problem. Losing to Nina Nunez, not a problem. Getting stopped by KGB, that's a little bit of a problem. Losing to Jessica Andrade, not a problem. Losing to Caitlin Sermonara, not a problem. But she looks lost. She looks broken. She's never really been able to work out how to make her striking and her wrestling work together to be a coherent MMA fighter. And she's facing Piero Rodriguez, who is not a great name and coming off a loss to Jillian Robertson, but she is very powerful. She does kind of have to do everything that kind of showed up in the Robertson fight where she like willingly grappled with Jillian Robertson, who only does grappling, and that's a problem. But I have no positive vibes from Calvillo about her ability to put this together. So I got to go with Rodriguez by decision. She's the harder hitter. She's the more functional striker. She's not a better wrestler, but I do feel like, I don't know, there's nothing really good going on for Calvillo right now. Rodriguez is the favorite, minus 125 to minus 148. Calvillo plus 100 to plus 120. John Matsumoto versus Dan Argueta. I am taking Argueta by decision here. It's not a pick I feel very good about. My problem with Matsumoto, before I can get on to the hype train, so to speak, is that he has beaten can crushers and nothing but can crushers. They're like guys who have they have good records, and you're like, oh, that might be a good win. And then you look at it like, no, this guy hasn't beaten anybody with a winning record or anyone who has like a significant number of fights or whatever. It's like, he's not a can crusher, but he's crushing the guys who crush the cans, and he's going to decision with them. But doesn't mean that there's not a lot of stuff I like about him. I love his low kick game. It's very, very nice. I think his head movement is actually leagues above what you see from most fighters, but I need to see him beat somebody who is somebody before I trust in it. And Argueta is somebody. Like he did go out there and maul Ronnie Lawrence. He did go out there and have a reasonably competitive fight with Miles Johns. He did go out there and did he beat somebody? I swear he beat somebody. Am I wrong on that? Am I wrong on this? I know he lost to Damon Jackson. Yeah, he beat Nick Aguirre, which I guess doesn't mean anything. But beat Nick Aguirre, had a good showing against Ronnie Lawrence, had a fine showing against Miles Johns, had a decent showing against Damon Jackson, even though he very clearly lost the fight. But he is powerful. He does have a really unchokeable neck, and a lot of Matsumoto's wins outside of decisions are coming via front headlock setups with guillotines and anacondas, Bravo chokes, that kind of thing. So that seems pretty unlikely to happen. It's a tough call. I don't know. I could absolutely see Matsumoto winning this fight. I could see him. I could see his game translating up a level way better than I'm expecting it to. But I won't pick it. Argueta by decision. He is a plus 135 to plus 146 underdog. Matsumoto minus 160 to minus 188. Dylan Budka versus Cesar Almeida. This is just bad matchmaking. So Cesar Almeida is a guy who has a pretty reasonable kickboxing background, up to glory, even has a 2013 win over Alex Pereira, although he is 1-2 against him overall. He is probably instantly a better striker than most guys in the middleweight division. And you would think that the UFC knows how to handle this by now, because they brought in Alex Pereira and they gave him Andre Michailidis and stuff and Bruno Silva, and they brought in Izzy Adesanya, and they brought him in there with guys who really couldn't wrestle all that well. They would still try to wrestle them, but they would fail and they would get tired and that kind of thing. And it built them up to title shots and title contention and having belts. Both of them are in title fights in very near future. They have given Almeida Dylan Budka, who is a wrestler, is not a bad wrestler. He is a willing but very uncomfortable striker. And I assume he's just going to take down Almeida over and over and over again. Now, Almeida is not a novice on the ground. Well, he's not useless on the ground. There you go. He does fight for underhooks well when people are trying to take him down. He does try to escape the ground positions pretty well. He has a little bit of a scramble game, a little bit of a sweep game. He actually did out-grapple his opponent on Dana White Contenders Series, but that was another kickboxer trying to grapple him, and you could tell was making very bad decisions. Budka should be able to get him down, should be able to control him, should be able to ride it out to decision. He's not much of a finisher, and I guess Almeida's hype train will kind of not leave the station. Anyways, Budka is the favorite, minus 145 to minus 162. Almeida plus 120 to plus 130. And then we get to women's bantamweight belt. By the way, 2 bantamweight belts for the women on the same card. This is insane. We have Melissa Tanya Mullins versus Nora Cornole. 2 fighters I don't really trust for completely different reasons. With Mullins, I like her fight IQ. I like her scrappiness. I like her kind of varied skill set. I like her ability to game plan. She seems to fight people to weak points. She will take advantage of very, very small opportunities and exploit them. But at the same time, she's not very athletic. And in Cornole's case, I don't think athleticism is the problem, but she is a pretty poor wrestler. She gave up 5 takedowns to Jocelyn Edwards, who is not a great wrestler, for 9 minutes of top control. That is a problem. She is a pretty reasonable striker, but not an amazing one. And I, at the end of the day, have to go with Melissa Mullins to see what Jocelyn Edwards was able to do and replicate it and be way, way more active on top, because Edwards is annoyingly not active. So I'm going to go with Mullins by decision. Should be fun. Maybe. I don't know. I do like Mullins. So hopefully she gets a W here. She is a way larger favorite than I think she should be. Minus 325 to minus 350. No. Cornole plus 250 to plus 280. I might dip my toe in with that one there. So there you go. We got a whole weekend, or end of the week of fights, basically. 3 days straight. And there's some good stuff there. Check out the links down below for my social medias, my gaming stuff, and of course the MMA Discord simulator, which allows for my fans of my podcast to make fighters and guide them through a career, which is pretty fun, pretty enjoyable. I will see you after the fights on Sunday. I do believe, unless something gets in the way.